Welcome back to my channel. I am Adorkable Rachel, and it's time for another episode of Rachel Reviews, so let's just hop into it. Endgame! I was so incredibly lucky because I got to go see a press screening of this film, and I got to see it with a bunch of really enthusiastic people, and I cannot wait to tell you what I thought of it. But just to get it out of the way, this is going to be a spoiler-free review. We are not going to be discussing spoilers here. I might possibly do a spoiler review, we'll see, but for today we are just going to talk about my personal reaction to the movie and not give away any major spoilers. And before we get to the review, we have a sponsor! Woo! This episode is brought to you in part by Loot Crate. Loot Crate is a monthly subscription box service for epic geek, gamer, and pop culture gear. And every month's theme is different. This month's theme is cosmic. It has things like a Captain Marvel 3D comic standee, adult collectible, not a toy. Wait, what? 17 and up. I don't know why they felt the need to put 17 and up. It's just her looking awesome, but there you go. It also has things like this sick pin, a little notebook, this t-shirt of a Nomad ND1. I don't know what that is. A little mini poster. And this is my personal favorite, a face hugger washcloth. So I wash my face like this, and it looks like there's a face hugger on me. That's actually awesome. I love that. And that's just a small example of the kind of things that you'll get in your Loot Crate box every month. If you want to get cool stuff like this every month, go to lootcrate.com/adorkable, link in the description down below, and also use my code ADORKABLE to save 10%. I mean, who doesn't want awesome nerdy things at a discounted price? Go sign up. Also, one more quick thing before we actually get into the review. I wanted to mention that I was originally going to do a Captain Marvel review, but just some things kind of got in the way. But I owe you a quick review, so here it is. I thought it was okay. It felt really standard, kinda, as far as Marvel movies go. It was funny, it had some good action, and I really did like how 90s Samuel L. Jackson looked in this movie. I mean, oh my gosh, the aging technology in a lot of these films has gotten just incredible. I have no problem whatsoever believing some people are older or younger than they actually are, thanks to technology. The cat was probably my favorite thing in this whole movie, and I'm just being honest, I don't really remember Carol Danvers being that interesting of a character. I thought Brie Larson was good with what she had, but the character herself was just kind of like, But I still do appreciate the attempts that the film made. Overall enjoyable, just not super memorable. It was alright. Okay, finally, I know some of you have been waiting for this. Let's talk about Avengers Endgame. This film is, of course, a direct sequel to the Avengers Infinity War movie that came out last year. After Thanos snapped his fingers and basically erased half of all of life as we know it. And okay, what can I say about this movie without spoiling it? The movie's 3 hours long, so be prepared for that. Take my advice, use the restroom before you see the movie, and also don't drink anything during the movie either. Be ready to be sitting down and watching this movie for a really, really, really long time. The film starts out with the Avengers that are still here, and they're basically, as you would expect, trying to come to terms with what's happened. We're seeing this really big impact is put on everyone, and also they're just trying to figure out what in the world do they do from here? Do they just simply move on, or do they do what they can to try to reverse what's happened? And boy, does this movie do an incredible job of showing how it impacts everyone. All the Avengers react to it differently. Everyone has their own way of coping with it. Sometimes it's really emotional and sad, and sometimes it's surprisingly actually really funny. I think my personal favorite is Thor, and seeing how he's dealing with all of it, because I just didn't expect this. At first I was kind of joking that he basically kind of turned into Aquaman from the DCEU, but as the scene progressed, I was just proven more and more right that he's Aquaman. It's really funny, and you'll see what I mean. So the opening scene, which focuses on Hawkeye, I knew as soon as he showed up in that very first scene that we were in trouble. We all know what's gonna happen. We've all speculated that this was going to happen, but that doesn't make the moment any less Yeah. In fact, there's a lot of things in this movie that the audiences out there did kind of predict would and should happen, but that is exactly what makes them work. Those things need to happen. If those things didn't happen, then seriously, like, what are we doing here? But it still also has a lot of surprises because I could not have personally predicted the path that it eventually goes down. Yeah, I mean, despite this movie being a huge downer, it actually has a great sense of humor about itself. I kind of went into this movie expecting it to just be really super dramatic and maybe a few funny lines here and there, but actually, the second scene of the film is a lot more light than the first one, and I was genuinely delighted by that. It prepared us for the fact that, yeah, it's gonna be super downer, and it's also gonna be kinda, you know, cutesy and funny in some moments. But it also, for the most part, works. Cause actually also, there's some really funny action scenes in the film too. I know, I was surprised too, but like most Marvel films, it doesn't really feel out of place most of the time. The filmmakers were really wise with choosing where to be serious and where to put in a little humor, or a lot of humor, or whatever, but it was a pretty decent balance, I think. I hope this isn't a spoiler, but we did talk about Captain Marvel, so I kinda wanna bring her up for a second. I was surprised that she's not in the movie as much as I thought she was going to be. I mean, in the last film and in all these other little scenes that she's shown up, there's kind of been this buildup of her possibly having a big part in this film. But like, no, well, actually, from a filmmaking standpoint, I get it. Like, she's really, really powerful, and if she was around most of the time, then this probably would have been a much shorter movie. It would have been like Captain Marvel Part 2, and she saves the day, and boom, end of Avengers Endgame / saga / that's it. In fact, I wouldn't be that surprised if when the How It Should Have Ended series takes on this film, that's kind of what they address. If Captain Marvel was there, that'd be it. Within the context of the film, they do have an excuse of why she's not there that much, but from a filmmaking standpoint, it just seems like they were really trying to get her out of the way so that the Avengers can do their thing. And that was, I guess, off-putting for me because there was so much build-up to her in the films before her and her film and even after, and it's just like, that's it? But her being on screen also is not wasted, don't get me wrong. I expected her to do more, and she didn't. Oh well. So like I said before, this movie is 3 hours long, and I do want to talk about this because when you hear that, it's very possible that you'll think to yourself like, oh my gosh, why in the world do I want to go see a movie for 3 hours? Why can't I just like watch it later and pause it when I want to? And I won't lie, there are moments when you can kind of feel the length and there are some slow-paced scenes, but those scenes have purpose and really important and crucial character development, and they just kind of let the mood sink in. But here's the thing, I'm really glad that they did have the movie this long because it's basically like the director's cut without being trimmed down too much because we really do need those scenes. And really thinking about it, even if the movie did feel long at some points, I was never bored while watching it. I mean, how often does that happen? Probably because the film does flow, it has great action and creative comedy, and legit feels. And it's really easy to be invested in everything that happens if you've been attached to the MCU. And I also really like that this movie does have another chance to put other characters together to do things, and you get to see them work off the chemistry of each other. Like, you wouldn't expect some of them to actually get scenes together, but they do, and it's really interesting to see that. It kind of reminds me of Game of Thrones because they tend to do that a lot in the series as well. So I can't say how or why, but in this film, there's actually some scenes that are taken from scenes in other MCU movies. They're not flashbacks, I really can't say what they are, but I was really impressed with how they use these scenes. It was really clever what they did here because not only were these scenes crucial to this story, but also they were kind of helping pay homage to the entire MCU franchise. And when you see this movie and see why those scenes are in there, it's also really interesting to see just how they were able to execute all of this. For lack of a better word, it's pretty cool. And in a way, this film is also kind of a love letter to all the MCU films that have come before it. And that's really beautiful in a really specific, self-aware kind of way. The climax of this movie I can't tell you. It's amazing. This is what 11 years of films and stories and characters have been building up to, and it is just unbelievable. All I'm gonna say about it in this review is that I am so relieved that they did not botch it with a Breaking Dawn Part 2 kind of climax. I didn't think they would really do that, but while watching it, there was just that tiny little voice in my mind that was like, oh my god, what if we go in that direction? But after watching it all the way through, I can at least comfortably say that no, they do not do that. Thank God. It's just an epic and satisfying climax, okay? Now this movie's great, but there are a couple of questionable things in it. Like, I mean, I'm still a little confused about this one particular concept in the movie and how it's played out and the logic behind it and just how it's used in the film. Like, I don't know, I'm still debating and scratching my head about it after seeing it a couple days ago. And I feel like they kind of contradicted it at the end. Like, wait a minute, I thought you said this, but now this? But from what I saw, the movie did keep the logic of it pretty consistent. And the movie does have some funny, if not decent, self-awareness to it too. So fine, whatever. I'll give you a pass, movie. There are a couple of things in the film that feel a little glossed over. Like, what happens to Bruce Banner? I feel like there's kind of a build-up to him, and what happens just kind of feels like we completely missed out on that experience. It feels a little too easy somehow, at least from a filmmaking standpoint. But overall, I love the hell out of this movie, and it really was everything that I hoped it would be, but also a whole lot more. The build-up, the emotions, the character development, the humor, the unexpected subtle tributes to so many Marvel films, the old and new relationships. The MCU, when you really break it down, is this massive entity of a franchise, and it really has, in so many ways, changed how we view superhero films and how we now make superhero films. And this movie as a whole is pretty much the whole MCU franchise represented as one big movie. It is the grand finale after being on a long, life-changing journey with all of these characters after all of these years. I know there's more movies coming, and honestly, I'd be really surprised if Marvel ever stopped making films at this point, but if they had ended it with this film, I would be fine with it. I really would. And just like the last Avengers film, this movie is not going to be as enjoyable if you haven't been watching all of the other films, or at least most of them. You'll definitely be a lot more invested and get a lot more out of it if you have been following the MCU. But I mean, really, that is kind of the whole point of this film. A lot of the Marvel films do work on their own, but these films are meant to be for the people who have been watching and following the MCU. Every single Marvel movie from the past 11 years has been building up to this one, and it was beyond worth the wait and the payoff. You'd have to be a pretty anal retentive and petty Marvel fan for this movie to not satisfy you. It's fantastic. Everyone's been saying it's fantastic. I can't add a whole lot more to it. I'm just go see it on the big screen. But make sure that you bring those tissues, because don't blame me if you start crying. And again, make sure you use the bathroom. And don't drink anything. Believe me. You'll thank me. So those are my non-spoiler thoughts on Avengers Endgame. So now I want to know, guys, when you get the chance to see it, what did you think? Also, let me know, what is your favorite MCU movie after all this time? And are there any other movies coming out soon that you want me to review? Well, go ahead and leave your comments below. Be sure to like and share. And if you're new and like what you saw here, then don't forget to hit that subscribe button. And also be sure to hit the little bell button down there to get notified when new stuff comes out, because Marvel Universe